before Thanksgiving, a little thing about gratitude. Remember, showing gratitude in our life, and gratitude actually into this maturity that we have, and then it leads to some joy within our life itself. And then kind of how that whole thing continues, out of gratitude coming into joy, and how it kind of proofs us from finding ourselves into all kinds of situations or circumstances within our life. The challenge with Advent and Christmas time is that it's just a lot of work. And we love it, don't we? We can't wait till Christmas gets here, and then all of a sudden then it's recuperation time afterwards because we're just trying to make up for all the time. It's stressful, you know. Families getting together, like preparing, getting all the things ready, getting presents for people, and then getting ready for the question, did you like what I got you? You didn't look happy when you opened it up. You know what that's like. I mean, it's one thing to go and just buy something for somebody, but it really challenges when you go and try to find the right thing out of the 10,000 million things there are, and what does that look like? How does that put itself together? It's stressful. It's stressful for me. I'm trying to buy the perfect present for Connie, and man, I'm trying to come up with the right thing, you know, and I've been thinking about it, and all of a sudden I realize, hey, I'm going to think myself all the way past Christmas if I don't do something about that, you know. And so I went online this week and I was trying to find something from my favorite shops at Esty. You know Esty? Espy, thank you. Etsy. Huh? Etsy, thank you very much. That's what I said, I think. No, I'm kidding. And so I found this place and I found something and I thought this would be a great idea in case she watches this. But anyway, I thought it'd be great. And I wrote this letter to this lady, and it turned out to be a lawyer who no longer is a lawyer because she's got 4 kids at home. And now what she does is she makes jewelry. And I said, are you serious? She goes, oh yeah. She says, I don't make as much money, but am I ever happy? I said, really? Tell me about that. She goes, oh, before you know it, it became a counseling session. She lives in Ohio. We're texting all this back and forth. And she just said, oh, I just love it. She goes, I just relax. I could be the whole thing. And I said, isn't it stressful to you? She said, Christmas is kind of high gear. But she said, nonetheless, she said, I just enjoy it. It was just a great time for me and everything else. Why? I get to be with my family, everything else, and I get to make other people happy. And I said, you know what? It's not by accident that I found you. It's for a reason and a purpose. And we've been sharing back and forth. 11:30 last night, she sent me another text. I was in bed, woke me up. I had to write her back this morning. 5:30 this morning, she wrote me back again. I figured that's 6:30, you know, in Ohio time. But I just thought, whatever. And we've been talking back and forth, and she's making something for Connie, and she comes up with all these ideas and things, and we're beginning to find out about each other and learn about each other and who we are and what's going on in your life. Before you know it, something that was stressful turns out to be something of great joy. What looked like a black hole turned out to be a wonderful opportunity with a bright light coming towards me, and it wasn't a train. It was light. It was the opportunity for me to see Christmas in a different way, in a new way. And you know what? It's going to be wonderful. She wrote me last night. She said, I'm scared. I said, what's that? She goes, what if Connie doesn't like what I've got? I said, it's a gift. It's a gift. That's what I do. I want a gift. Because Connie will not say to me whether she likes it or not. I won't ask her. It's a gift. That's what it's about. And you know what? That's what Christmas is about. Christmas sometimes comes in so many different shades for us that sometimes we have a hard time of understanding the joy of Christmas. That's why I've been trying to preach about it for the Sundays, and I'll do it again next week, about what is this thing called joy? Joy. And how do we find that? And what does it look like? Because sometimes joy is not one of these bright signs that says, joy! Because people have those bright signs, they look at it and they go, oh, great joy. Yeah. But sometimes joy is hidden. Sometimes joy comes veiled in other ways. And sometimes because we don't see joy, we just don't think it's joyful. We don't see that it's there. But that sometimes comes from our own narcissism of thinking, what does it do for me? Rather than what is already done for me, and where's my calling and what God is calling me to do. There's a lot of theologians that we love. Pastors, we love theologians. Go to seminary, you spend a lot of time reading theologians. Søren Kierkegaard, you know, some of those folks, Bonhoeffer, Reinhold Niebuhr, you read all those kinds of things, etc. But you know what one of the best, greatest theologians are? Do you know? Garth Brooks. He's a good one, I tell you. Do you remember his songs? You may not, you're too young, you wouldn't remember these, but Garth Brooks used to write music, and he used to sing a lot, and after a while, it it impacted us. When a new song came out from Garth Brooks, it impacted us because suddenly we related. Hear what I just said? We related to it. We suddenly go, oh, that's me. Whoa, the whole thing. I remember when he came out in the 90s with this song called Thank God for Unanswered Prayer, you know? And it's a story that talks about him going back to Oklahoma where he graduated. And he went back and he went there with his wife, you know, and they were married and the whole thing, and they had a child and the whole thing. And all of a sudden, he saw there his old high school flame. Now, for some of you, you may not understand that, but there usually is that first love. Maybe you married them, but if not, there's that person that you suddenly go, ah, that was my first girlfriend. Or sometimes when you see them about 40 years later, you go, yeah, that was my old girlfriend. I'm glad she's my old girlfriend and not my new. And the girls say the same thing about guys. I mean, you know, we had this vision of what it's going to be. I remember one of our first high school reunions when I went back and I had this great vision of what people were going to look like. And you know what? They didn't look that way. They were a little strange looking. Some tried to look like they were in high school again, but it didn't quite work, you know. The over-tanness, you know. When you live up north in Wisconsin and you come with a tan like you've been living in the Caribbean for 10 years and people say, are you feeling okay? You look really yellow. It's a tan. I look beautiful, don't I? You know? I mean, it's all kinds of imagery. That's the thing he ran into. So he goes back and he finds his old high school girlfriend. And all of a sudden he thinks to himself, oh yeah, oh, it was good, it was great, it was wonderful. And then all of a sudden he says to himself, but that's my wife right here. Isn't she beautiful? You know? And then he sings that song, Thank God for Unanswered Prayer. You ever had any unanswered prayers that just broke your heart? And sometimes when you look in the rearview mirror, you realize, thank God for unanswered prayers. No telling where I'd be or what would happen. When I was a kid, my father, you know, this was back before we had a lot of creativeness with televisions in the back of the seats and all this kind of stuff. And my father would always ask a question. He goes, are we going up or are we going downhill as we drive down the road? I go, well, I have no idea. He goes, you can tell. I said, I can't tell. He goes, yeah, it's a game. Let's play it. Are we going uphill or downhill? I said, I don't know. He goes, you know how to find out? I go, how? He said, look in the rearview mirror. He said, if you look in the rearview mirror, you can tell if you're going uphill or downhill. And you can't believe it. Any of you do that? Okay, well, don't do it on the way home because you don't want you to get in trouble. But if you drive and you look in the rearview mirror, you can see whether you're going up or whether you're going down. It's an enhanced illusion that lets you know what direction that you're going at that point. We play this game all the time, especially when you didn't know. You're going on a flat space, and he goes, even when we're going flat, are we going up or are we going down? And you look in the rearview mirror, and you could see what's going. And sometimes it becomes clear for us. Have you ever had those moments in your life where all of a sudden you find yourself looking in the rearview mirror and you look at it and you say, man, I didn't realize where I've come from. I didn't realize what was going on. Realize where I am now. People go through those moments in those times. Sometimes we wish for the old days. Sometimes because the new days are so scary for us. Sometimes we find ourselves living in a land of darkness rather than in the light that Christ promises. William Shakespeare had a wonderful thing he used to do. In order to enhance an experience or an element, whether it be joy or sorrow, there was an old literary technique they would use. What he would do is he would write something that would either make things look really, really, really dark before he'd make something look light and bright. It made it look brighter. Or he'd make things really, really bright, and then all of a sudden, boom, disaster. If you missed that, go watch Hallmark this afternoon. That's what they do all the time. I mean, it's unbelievable. Just remember, when it snows in a Hallmark movie, you know the good stuff's about to happen, all right? I'm serious about it. When the snow starts, that means got good stuff happening. Test me. I am a dedicated person who, unwillingly at first, but now willingly, gets to sit down and watch every Hallmark movie from beginning to end with my dear wife. It's love, etc. And I always why I go, it's snowing. That's our conversations at home sometimes. It's snowing. She goes, it is, it's snowing. Here comes the good part. I'm like, yeah. Sometimes it's important for us to realize that in times of sorrow, it's a predicate sometimes to joy. You with me? Sometimes sorrow, rather than triggering us going into depression and worry and fear and doubt, is an introduction for us of joy. Now, I know that sounds odd, and I want to clarify it. Because sometimes in the middle of great loss, there comes an appreciation for what we have. And there comes a fulfilling of faith and hope for what will be. My father passed away when he was 60 years old. Freaky situation. Went to the doctor. The doctor says, we're going to fix this little thing. No problem. We'll do it. And he developed a blood clot and he died. We held his funeral at the high school auditorium because everybody came. He was that kind of person in our community. And my life stopped. He was my hunting partner, my fishing partner. We went everywhere. We'd go to Newfoundland. We'd go everywhere together in hunting. And I didn't do any hunting anymore. I didn't do any fishing anymore until my son said to me one day, Dad, why don't you ever hunt and fish anymore? I go, oh, sorry, don't do that anymore. And sometimes I found myself living to a point of going, it can never be joyful again. And suddenly I realized that I was living less than, and suddenly I needed that opportunity. Sometimes I need to realize that when sorrows come, they're not from God, but when sorrows of life and the world come to us, God says, I have an opportunity for you to be able to experience joy. I know it sounds crazy, but to experience joy in the midst of this. Where suddenly you say, but you know what? Your father may have passed, but do you remember the times you had together? Yes. Do you remember the joys that you had with him? Yes. Do you remember the fact that we promised to see each other again? Truly, truly, I say unto you, weep and sorrow now, but your sorrow will be turned into joy, for I will see you again, and your hearts will rejoice, and no one will take that joy from you. It only took me about 25 years before I began to realize that there was joy and what that looked like, and how I could be with other people in their moments of sorrow and sadness and speak from it from firsthand account. I know what it means. When Connie and I were newly married, after about the first year, we had our baby, and our baby died. And I said, I'm done being a pastor. I'm never going to do this again. I'm going to live in this darkness the rest of my life. And what looked like sorrow then turned out to be something of joy. Sometimes in our life, there are those opportunities and moments when sorrow brings with it joy. And because of our faith, moves in that direction. And one of the great reasons is because God is with us in the midst of those moments. The challenge is what we focus upon, what we hold upon as part of our life and part of our living. I only say that to you because one of the real challenges we have as part of Christmas is to remember who died or who left. We used to do blue Christmas services, think about those who've passed on and all those kinds of things. And yes, we are sorry. We're sad. I mean, be in that sorrow and sadness. That's because you loved them so much. You connected with them so much. But God says death is not the end of the story. It's a shadow. It can frighten you, but it can't harm you because I'll be with you. I'll walk through the valley of the shadow of death with you. There's opportunities for that, no matter where we may be, no matter what's gone on in our life, the opportunity for us to move in that direction. And there's nothing more beautiful than watch someone, even after 40 years, suddenly say, I found a little joy after 40 years of living in sorrow. Sometimes our living in sorrow is a tribute to the life and the relationship and the person that we loved and cared for. It's true. As a pastor, sometimes, I say to people, is this real? I'm so sorry it was your father, it was your mother who passed away. Yeah, they made good cream cheese or whatever. They loved chili and they loved to play cards. Really? And sometimes there are those who go, my mother was my life. My father was my life. That was part of my relationship, and I enjoy that, and I love that. And then suddenly we move to the place of joy within our lives and understanding what that joy means and what that can be. The good news is when we live in those moments, when we're in relationship with God, when we're in relationship with others, we take the most advantage of that. We look beyond did you like the gift or not to the point of I love having you in my life. And live every day for the fullest. That's what Christ talks about. Pile it up till it runs over. Pack down. That's what he says. And that's what Christmas is to be about for us. That's what this joy of the season talks about. Seeing the joy on the backside of sorrow. Jesus' father. What other things do we know about Joseph? Not much. Didn't say much. In fact, he died before Jesus was 12 years old. Didn't perceive that. Jesus grew up learning to be a carpenter like his father. And when his dad died, about Joseph. In the Roman Catholic Church, there's something called the seven oblates of Joseph. You're Protestants. You know about that, right? No, I don't know much about it. It's one of the sorrowful things. We don't even talk, in Catholic Church, we don't even talk about it. I had a friend who's a priest, and I said to him, do you know about the seven oblates of Joseph? He goes, whatever. I know, seriously. You know what the seven oblates were? Opportunities when he was met with sorrow and it turned into joy. I'm going to divorce my wife. I'm not going to get married. She's pregnant. What was the joy side of it? Voila. It's going to be the Son of God. It's okay. I can do this. I can't find a place for us to stay. I'm a bad husband. Got a cave for you, Son of God. I got a manger for me to be born in. It goes all the way through. There's 7 times he does it. That's what that picture in the front of your bulletin is kind of an icon of that. That's what's in your circle. You can read the message later, but those are the kind of things he brings up. The time when he's 12 years old and they take him to the temple, they go there in order to have the big celebration for Passover, and then they start walking home, and after 3 days, the women and the men's group kind of mix up together, and Mary says to Joseph, where's Jesus? And Jesus goes, I thought you had him. I didn't have him. Oh my God, it's been 3 days. He's back in Jerusalem. Let's go. And they didn't make the trip in 1 hour. It took them 3 days. You imagine that? Can you imagine? Let's go. You lost the Son of God. That's a biggie. But in every one of those examples, and there's printed in their bulletin, you see the example of sorrow turned into joy. You all with me? Sorrow turned into joy. Here, I'm going to cut to the quick. Here's what I want you to do. This Christmas, and start today, I want you to take an opportunity to look at all the sorrows in your life and then look for a bright light of joy. God gives it to us repeatedly. And then grab onto that bright of joy and see what a difference it can make in your life. To realize that seeing joy on the backside of sorrow, it's part of the balance and the rhythm of life. It is. And we focus on the joy side rather than living in the sorrow side. It becomes who we are. Joy Gardner, amazing lady who didn't write many songs, but wrote one. I remember that when I was getting ready to go to seminary and having all kinds of issues, with the loss of our child and everything else, this song came out called Joy Comes in the Morning. You with me? Joy Comes in the Morning. And she wrote the words of this song. I want you to hear the words of this song. I want to close with this. She said, if you've knelt beside the rubble of an aching, broken heart, when the things you gave your life is to fall apart, when you're not the first to be acquainted with sorrow, grief, or pain, but the Master promised sunshine after the rain. Hold on, my child, joy comes in the morning. Weeping only lasts for the night. Hold on, my child, joy comes in the morning. The darkest hour means dawn is just in sight. To invest your seeds of trust in God in mountains you cannot move. You have risked your life on things you cannot prove. But to give the things you cannot keep for what you cannot lose, now that's the way to find the joy God has for you. Hold on, my child, joy comes in the morning. Hold on, my child, joy comes in the morning. Weeping only lasts for the night. Hold on, my child, for joy comes in the morning. The darkest hour means dawn is just in sight. Let's pray together. God, there are joys of Christmas that we don't even see sometimes. But sometimes joy comes in unexpected packages. with all the turmoils and difficulties that Mary, Joseph, and Jesus had in coming into the world. And yet the Savior of the world was born in a stable. But even a place was provided. Joy was predicated by sorrow. Sorrow was seen, and then out of our sorrows come our joys. This is Christmas. We bear all these sorrows. Sometimes we do them privately. We don't even let other people know that we're sad because we just save face. But sometimes we miss out on others saying, I'll pray for you. Sometimes we miss out on others seeing needs. Help us, oh God, to be able to see that joy comes in the morning. Help us to understand, God, that in the midst of darkness there comes light, even if we can't see it. And that if we can't see it, we ask, and God, you give us new eyes to see it, and it can make all the difference for us. We're getting ready for Christmas, God. We just ask that you begin your work right now because we need your help and your work right now in our lives. Help us to look in the rearview mirror. And if we look like we're going downhill, God, give us the first priority to be able to look for joy and hold on to that. You don't skimp it. You are the light of the world. You come to dispel the darkness. May that happen in our lives and the lives of those that we love and care for. For this we ask in your holy name. And everyone said, amen. As the ushers come forward, let us receive our morning offering.